Hi, Dr. Jayesh Ranjan. Very nice to have you here, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jayesh Ranjan.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for joining. So we'll kickstart the session, sir. So first of all, thanks to all of you for participating in this series 3 of our webinars. And this is the first of this series. We will be doing a series of 8 webinars. And the focus of the series is on circular future and how do we really actionize this circular future. While has been a lot of dialogue at a grassroots level, changes are still to be clearly visible. So what is it that we need to do for this transition is what we will be debating during this series. The last 2 series, so just to give you a background about this webinars, so we started this almost 2 years back. The first series was focused on extended producer responsibility. The name of the series was Demystifying EPR. The primary purpose was, as EPR was fairly new at a country level, what are the final nuances of it, to discuss, debate it, understand what are the challenges which are being faced at a grassroots level. In the last series, we focused on circularity. The name of the session was Closing Material Loops. And this one is on the circular future in action. The broad focus of these series is to essentially throw light on different aspects and bring in a whole range of perspectives for the change to happen. We invite speakers from all over the world, covering government, academia, businesses, decision makers, researchers. Today, we have a very, very strong panel. We have certain people with very strong research background. We have government representatives. And then we also have someone who can suggest, what is happening on the investment side in this space. Are we seeing investment coming in? So with this, let me give you a short overview of our organization, Karo Sambhav. I am, by the way, Pranshu Singhal, founder of Karo Sambhav. We were set up in 2017 to primarily focus on creating collection systems, most importantly, because that's the starting point. Our focus is material circularity. So we created systems of collection in over 70 cities and in all states of India. We operate in 5 different sectors: electronics, plastics packaging, batteries, glass, and last year we tried out tires in 2 cities. First is Hyderabad and second is Chennai. And we are also evaluating solar waste at this point in time, along with mattress waste. In addition to this, we have also now taken some steps in setting up recycling plants. We have 2 recycling plants, one in Ghaziabad in UP, and second has recently come up in Nasik in Modinagar. We are setting up a third one in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So this is where we are. Most importantly, we have now taken steps to address difficult fractions so that we can focus on recovering of critical raw materials. We have a project which is just started. It is a project given to us by Technology Development Board, along with so the partners here are IIT Roorkee and Leeds University and a magnet manufacturing company in UK. And then we have a second project which has just been awarded. Actually, the awarding is happening today by Ministry of Mines, which is focusing on recovery of indium from the screens. So with this, I like to invite Dr. Jayesh Ranjan to give the keynote address. Let me give a small brief. And sir, I'm delighted to share that I also happen to be a Shivling Gurukul Fellow, and I noticed that you are also a Shivling Gurukul Fellow from 2005. I am from 2015 batch. So Shri Jayesh Ranjanji is a member of IAS of 1992 batch. He was All India topper of the batch in that year. He is also part of National Pool of Trainers for the Government of India in training newly recruited civil servants. He has a master's degree in psychology from Delhi University, a degree in business management from IIM Calcutta, and a master's in public management from Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy in US. He was awarded World Bank's Social Capital Visiting Scholarship, Shivling Gurukul Scholarship from British government in 2005, and in 2019, Royal Order of the Polar Star by His Majesty King of Sweden. So we are delighted to have you, sir. I have known you as a strong promoter of circular economy, especially you have done a lot in driving work on electronic waste management. So, sir, we would like to have your views and over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Singhal. Greetings to you, all the fellow speakers, all the participants. First of all, I would like to congratulate Karo Sambhav for putting together this webinar. And I have seen the plans for the subsequent sessions. You have been able to bring together some of the important experts, proponents, practitioners. So I am very sure that the webinar today will give rise to lots of new insights, new action, more collaboration. And thank you very much for making me a part of it. So I'll be very brief in my opening remarks, but whatever I say is based on some actual grassroots work which we have carried out in the last 5 years related to e-waste. So the reality is that all governments know about e-waste, understand about the challenges of e-waste, but nothing really happens on the ground for two important reasons. One, there is no policy per se, and second, there is no institution. No one takes complete responsibility and accountability to deliver on that. So in Telangana, when we became a new state in 2014, we brought out a number of new policies in the areas of technology, areas of investment. And one of the policies that we have brought out was the policy on e-waste. I would imagine that after the national policy, which had come a few years earlier, among the states, possibly we were the first state to bring out a policy on e-waste. But the key to mention again is that many policies of this kind are brought out, but again, no action happens on the ground because there is no one to take complete responsibility and accountability for that. So one advantage which we had was that in Hyderabad, we already have a very strong institution called CIPET. And I have seen in the session plan, CIPET faculty are also involved in a couple of the panel discussions that you have today. So possibly they will tell more about this organization. But this is a Government of India organization working under the Ministry of IT and Electronics, IT. And the focus is on materials for electronic technology. CIPET stands for that. So what we decided was that we will set up a center of excellence on e-waste, which will be located within CIPET premises, and they will do a number of things. So e-waste, as intuitively everyone will know, has multiple stakeholders. There are different kinds of electronic waste. There are stakeholders who are in the formal sector, who are in the informal sector. There is the government on one side, but there are also research institutions. There's an informal sector of collectors, then recyclers, then people who actually convert those recycled material into useful product. There is lots of knowledge which is coming in this sector. Lots of startups have shown interest. So the Center of Excellence has been designed in such a way that every aspect of the value chain of electronic waste is addressed there, and the interests of all the stakeholders are also addressed. So one of the first responsibilities which this Center of Excellence has taken is to develop indigenous technologies. And we have so far focused on 4 kinds of waste material which have the potential to be recycled. And again, since the gathering is of people who are involved in e-waste, so it is not that something there's something very new that I'm mentioning, but just to kind of recapitulate, one important material that we are handling are the PCBs. So how do you recycle PCBs? Another very important material, and today as more and more electric vehicles, etc., are in use, lithium-ion batteries. How do you recycle Li batteries, which is also a very important national priority because all of us know that we are dependent upon imports of lithium. Of course, now there is a source which is identified in the country, but till now we were all importing lithium and we were completely under that dependency that unless imports come from those countries of Bolivia and Argentina, etc., we will just not be able to move forward. Another very important, because the country is seeing a huge increase in solar electrification. So solar cells, silicon solar cells is another important material that we have focused on. And then in most of these materials, we also see permanent magnet. Again, they are made of rare earths and it is not very easy to access those kind of rare earths. So the focus of our Center of Excellence has been to develop technologies through which these can be recycled. Of course, there are a large number of scientists, there are labs, there is material, there are appliances available in CIPET. So it was very easy to develop those technologies. And I'm happy to share with you that from my TRL 7 for PCBs to TRL 4 for permanent magnet recycling, we have made reasonably good progress in developing these technologies. Many times, there are other research institutions also who succeed in developing technologies. But again, this is a criticism which is made about India, that much of the research work remains in the labs. So typically, we use a phrase, it is used typically in the agriculture context, from lab to land. I mean, how do you convert the research findings into action? So in our Center of Excellence, there is also a very strong emphasis on commercialization. And all these technologies which are developed are opened up for young entrepreneurs, young innovators, MSMEs, startups to adopt. And I'm happy to share with you that 16 such companies have been supported so far by the Center of Excellence to commercialize these technologies at a very, very nominal cost. So typically, technology transfer in the West is a very expensive proposition. I mean, you have to spend millions of dollars just to acquire a technology. But at possibly 1/20th or 1/30th of that cost, which prevails in the West, we have been able to make these technologies commercially available. So, two important aspects of the Center of Excellence. One is to develop technologies. Second is to commercialize technologies. But as we know, there is more to e-waste rather than just looking at the e-waste material and recycling, reusing, making that technology affordable and accessible. There are other issues also which have important social consequences. So we all know that there are collectors. Many of these collectors, we call them rag pickers. They are very, very, they have no education. They have literally scrounge through, waste sites, dump yards, and then they try to recover what is worth recovering. Then they sell it to intermediaries by weight, and then those intermediaries do some sorting, and then they pass it on, etc. So working with this sector is also very important because their livelihoods are also very vulnerable, very fragile. So this Center of Excellence has done good work in that area also, identified these kind of agencies, identified the collectors, identified the recyclers, and we are ensuring that the new generation technologies which are used for recycling, etc., these people are also appropriately placed. Either they're given jobs or a better way of collecting, hygienic way of collecting, safe way of collecting, etc., is taught to them. MSMEs are taught about these aspects and how do they recruit these pickers or these collectors, etc. So the social aspect of e-waste also is taken care of by the Center of Excellence. The Center of Excellence is also very important in ensuring that in a state, at least, or for this region, enough knowledge is created. So again, you will be happy to know that the Center of Excellence and IIT, we have an IIT in Hyderabad, have started MTech programs on e-waste, which possibly I really do not know if anyone else in the country is doing this, but we are the first ones which have started a e-waste MTech program and other kinds of writing research papers, publishing them, making that knowledge available. All that is happening in a very good way. So this is what I wanted to share. So three kind of learnings from what we have been able to successfully introduce in Hyderabad. One, of course, is that you have to give some responsibility to someone full time to look after e-waste. Just knowing about it, feeling concerned about it will not motivate you to action. I mean, even if you feel that there is some intent to do something, unless someone takes responsibility for doing it. So in Hyderabad, as I said, we are fortunate that CIPET is there. In other states, if there is nothing, you must create an organization of this kind or find some knowledge institution which can take this responsibility. So that is one. Second is that you have to look at all aspects of e-waste, so social aspects, material aspects, technology transfer, pricing, commercials, knowledge. I mean, you have to really go end to end, as they call the phrase goes. So again, that is something which we have been able to do very successfully. And a combination of policy, institutions, programs will really help you handle this serious problem of e-waste in a very manageable proportion. So this is an experience which I wanted to share. But as I said, we are all on a learning curve. It is not to say that I have understood everything, I've mastered everything, all frontiers are conquered. I can't make any such false claim. We are all on that learning curve, and I look forward to listening to some of the eminent practitioners and speakers for the rest of the evening and gain some more actionable insights from them. But nevertheless, I'm very happy to be a part of this webinar, and thank you, Mr. Singhal, for inviting me and giving me this chance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can I request a couple of things if you can elaborate? So are there also specific, so there are a couple of gaps which have emerged very strongly. And what we are trying to do via these series is also bring up some of these points. So one of the biggest challenges which has emerged is on the collection front. How do we enable collection at a large scale? So are there any specific state level policies while central government is putting certain things? Are there certain interventions that can be done? So this is point number one. And second, as you mentioned, briefly you talked about it, about accountability. Because enforcement continues to be a big challenge, and we are seeing, many organizations at the name of calling themselves recyclers, not really collecting waste, not really recycling. So that's also a challenge on one hand. Just a couple of weeks back, I was at CIPET when Dr. Sandeep was here, and one of the biggest debates was how do we improve the enforcement mechanism at a country level? Because with all the progress, that is becoming a huge challenge.
Yes, so I'll answer both these two questions, but I'll keep my answer short. So one is a very interesting state level initiative. See, amongst all the electronic devices that we use, phones are the most common. I mean, literally everyone today has a cell phone, and we keep seeing cell phone upgrades happening. So people discard their cell phones. Sometimes there is some problem, the battery stops working, the charger stops working, etc. So amongst all the devices that we have, the quickest replacement is in the cell phone segment. What we have done here is that there is a prominent retailer in the city which sells mobile phones. They have maybe 100 showrooms or 200 showrooms, I don't recall, but they are very prominent. Those who live in Hyderabad would know of them. So with their help, we have created a very interesting scheme. We have set up in all our IT parks collection points. And what it says is that if you discard your mobile phone or any accessory of the mobile phone in this particular point, this particular retailer will give you a coupon. So if you buy another one, you will get a very handsome discount, 30% discount, 40% discount, 50% discount. So it's a method through which the retailer is getting more business because, I mean, it's not to say that he has no competition, even though he's very large. There are others also. So he's driving business. The 30%, 40% discount that he's offering is still good enough to cover his profits and margin. And we are ensured that people are bringing everything, discarding everything at one point, from where it is very easy to pass it on to authorized recyclers. So this is one interesting state scheme which is working well. But it's not to say that this is the only thing. There are other things also which we have done, but this is one which I thought is worth mentioning. In terms of accountability, see, it is like this. There are bodies. A pollution control board typically is the standard regulatory agency in the state. But what happens is that this problem is not really very visible. Suppose a lake is getting polluted, or if some factory is throwing noxious air in the atmosphere, polluted air, or polluted gases and all, then those are more visible and PCB can go and catch. So what happens is that the law is there, agency is there, but because of less visibility, so what is required is someone to feed different information, which is what role the Center of Excellence is. The Center of Excellence is not a regulatory body. The Center of Excellence cannot penalize people, catch people, but it can inform people that I noticed this violation. I conducted a mobile, let us say, a meetup of 20 recyclers, where I found that 2 recyclers are way off the way things should be done, and I'm reporting them to you. So that channel, that conduit gets established through the Center of Excellence. So I'll stop with this, and I look forward to listening to other participants.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insights. So, Mani, then for the next part, I'll hand it over to you. Please take the proceedings further.
Thank you, Pranshu. Amrita, would you like to do the introductions when we go forward?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Mani. Thank you, Pranshu. Am I visible and audible?
Yep, clear.
Yeah. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, the attendees, participants, and our renowned bench of speakers. We have a fascinating panel of speakers today from academia, from investment, and obviously experts from the field of material circularity. To start with, I would like to introduce Dr. Brajesh Kumar Dubey. He is a circular engineering professor at IIT-Kharagpur, and he is also the chairperson of the School of Water Resources at IIT-Kharagpur. Dr. Dubey has over 17 years of postdoc experience in research, teaching, consulting within his broad fields of environmental engineering and circular economy. His field of expertise includes life cycle assessment, decarbonization of urban infrastructure, recycling risk assessment, and resource recovery. He has authored and co-authored over 250 publications in his area of expertise and has also worked as a waste management expert for UN agencies and the World Bank. Over to you, Mani.
Yeah, Amrita, I would suggest that you introduce the other panelists too, so that then we can run the panel continuously. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I would like to move on to Dr. S. Rajesh Kumar. He is Scientist F at the Center for Material for Electronics Technology, that is CIPET, Hyderabad. He is also the principal scientist and coordinator at the Center of Excellence on E-Waste Management at CIPET, as Jayesh Ranjan ji was mentioning. His areas of expertise includes PCB and lithium-ion battery recycling. Next, we have Dr. Smita Mohanty from CPET. She's the Principal Director and Head at the Central Institute of Petrochemicals Engineering and Technology, that is CPET Bhubaneswar. She is also the Senior Principal and Scientist at the School for Advanced Research in Polymers, LARPM. And her areas of expertise include polymer composite, nanocomposites, biopolymers, recycling, and plastic waste management. At the end, we have Ms. Simi Sarin. She's the founder of Climate and the director of Unitas Capital. Climate has helped over 50 climate tech and sustainability focused startups and also B2B startups source funding, be it debt financing, equity investment, or venture advisory. I think we have a wonderful panel to look forward to today. Over to you, Mani.
Thank you, Amrita, and thank you, Dr. Dubey, Dr. Rajesh, Dr. Mohanty, and Simi. Thanks for joining in, and thanks, Amrita, for the wonderful introduction. In fact, it's an excellent panel in the sense that we have three doctorates and for kind of technical information that we will get out of them. And I'm really looking forward to the information that they will be able to share. And of course, in terms of the money part of it, I'm looking to Simi to give us the guidance on how we can go forward. Now, having said that, I'll start the discussions with Dr. Dubey. Dr. Dubey, you had a great experience locally as well as globally. You spent more than 14 years of your postdoctoral life in countries outside of India. So I would like to hear from you in terms of circularity, how we are and how we have progressed from when we started roughly around 2016, when the e-waste rules have been notified, till now, how we have come, and then focus more in terms of how do we kind of push the boundaries and take it much faster, go further, and with respect to the global benchmarks, where are we and how quickly can we go there if at all we are not already there? Over to you, Dr. Dubey.
So thank you, Mani. And I'm sorry if there is a background noise a little bit. I'm at the airport. I hope my voice is clear.
Absolutely.
Okay. So as we talk about circularity, when we say waste management, waste is actually a misplaced resource. So that's where the thought process has kind of started when you talk about circular economy. And especially when we are talking about, see, even the title, when we say e-waste, actually we are talking about product. We are talking about products. So we need to think much beyond the waste, not only the end of life approach, but having more of a proactive approach in terms of how to design the electronic products in such a way so that it becomes easier for us to do the recycling. So when you are dismantling an electronic waste, it should be easy to recover all the individual material. So that's where when you're talking about where we are at global level, that's where we are now. We are thinking more of have a better design for circularity. And of course, we are also looking at holistic approach in terms of supply chain, not only looking at the material, but how to collect the material from different places and where to bring it, do the resource recovery, and then where is the market. So because you have to sell the material. See, economics has to make sense. I'm a technocrat, but still without economics, no technology will work. So we need to have the economy has to make sense. And at the same time, in terms of how you will, where the money will come from. That's what we will hear from one of our panelists, like how to make the things work, where the money will come. And as our Dr. Ranjan talked about all the policy interventions, all the help from the different stakeholders, the government help, the CIPET kind of organizations. So that's where having a more holistic approach is what's the thought process going on. Since you talked about global experience, I had an experience of working with a stewardship program, electronic waste stewardship program in Ontario. They were again looking at bringing all the stakeholder on one particular table. Because see what happens in our lab, we do a lot of stuff, as Dr. Ranjan was also talking about. We do a lot of stuff in our lab, but how to take it to the market? So there, our role kind of we don't know how to do business. Basically, as an engineer and researcher or a professor, I know like I can do research in my lab. I can do certain things. I can come up with certain technology. Now, how to make that technology really work on the field? That know-how I don't have. That's where I need a help. So different stakeholders coming together and government agencies should. One thing which we have seen in India, especially, and some other countries too, we like to push everything to the private sector. But in terms of bringing all the stakeholders together, it is only some semi-government or government organization can do. Otherwise, it becomes difficult. And so that's how, in big picture, that is what in the circularity space, those kind of discussions are going on in global level, also in India level too. And so that's what I would put the first thoughts. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Dubey. And just kind of an extension from what you said just now, in terms of the ability to extract the material from the material content. If you talked about design for circularity, etc., right now the way it is, it is truly not that way. So from the way of extraction of materials, how do we kind of let's say compare with global counterparts, and where are the gaps that you might want to if you have observed that?
In the Indian context right now, the precious metal recovery part is not happening that much. We are taking the electronic waste, we are dismantling it, and most of our recyclers are quote unquote dismantlers. They call themselves as recyclers, but they are essentially dismantling, and then they are doing some sort of recovery. But when it comes to the precious metal recovery, we are still sending our stuff to overseas for other than few places. So that's one area where we need to really focus on in terms of getting the recovery done. And same thing, we have to kind of, when we're talking about these critical minerals, now we use a bigger term as critical mineral. Most of the electronic waste, the material we are looking at, those precious material are actually called critical minerals. Now, which we need for our EV industry, which we need for all solar voltaic cells and other stuff. So for those critical minerals, we have to also look beyond the electronics. There are other sources of waste also there. There are several mining waste. There are several other waste sources from which critical minerals could be recovered. But in that case also, we have to have a techno-economic evaluation of how much of that is available, how much is extractable. How much is available is one thing, but how much is really extractable based on today's technology. And out of extractable, how much it will cost. and how to move things around, what is the logistics. So that again, we have to kind of look at in a bigger picture electronics and electronics related waste products. So those also needs to be brought into. And in fact, recently, as Dr. Ranjan also pointed out, like I'm part of that project from IIT Hyderabad, where we have got one collaborative project with Australia, where we are looking at this critical mineral recovery. In fact, we got 12 crores recently, and I'm one of the PI on that project. IIT Hyderabad is leading it, and I think CIPET is also part of that. It's a Spark project, which Australia-India collaborative project on that. So there are work going on. But again, as I said, one thing which I would really love to see is we all come together, sit on one table, brainstorm, and come up with workable solutions. Right now, we are working in silos. We don't talk to each other that much. And that if that happens, most of the solutions are available in India. We don't have to go abroad to get the solution, but we have to make it work. That's where we need to really emphasize on.
Thank you, Dr. Dubey. In fact, I agree with you. There are solutions available, and as far as what I hear from you is that it is not that we are anywhere far from what is happening elsewhere in the world. It is just that we have to make it all come together and make it happen, and that is where is the critical situation here. In fact, that you talked about precious metals and the critical minerals, I would kind of want to pull in Dr. Rajesh out here, because at the end of the day, he's a man who's working on the metals and the minerals, so to speak. And so, Dr. Rajesh, taking off from where Dr. Dubey left, how do you see this in the sense like with the technology that you are developing and with the technology that is available all over the world, how far are we and how easy is it for us to adapt? And what are the challenges that we might possibly have in ensuring that we do the precious metal extraction or critical mineral extraction in this country? What are your views on that?
Yeah, good afternoon, all. I think we got a very good introduction from Jayesh Ranjan sir. Actually, he has already introduced what are the work we are doing at Center of Excellence, along with Telangana government and also with IIT-Kharagpur. So to your question, where our previous speaker has just finished, the precious metal recovery is the one which is not happening. But not only precious metal recovery, the other special metals recovery is also not happening. Whereas the ferrous metals are happening. For example, it is not the case with only the our country. If you talk about the 62 billion kilograms of e-waste water produced in 2022, around 31 billion is something about metals. After that, around 24 billion is something around ferrous metals. Out of the 60% is already recycled or recovered. But whereas when you talk about the precious metals, the maximum is in the globally it is only 20% is only recovered. Not only the case in our country, it's globally itself is only 20%. Whereas the other special metals like zinc, lead, tin, cobalt, etc., even less than 10% is getting recycled. So whenever talk about the the iron, aluminium, copper, etc., around the 60% is getting recycled, whereas precious metals are only 20%. Other special metals are even less than 10%. So that is the statistics, and the technologies whatever is available in the country. There are some technologies, not only CIPET, the technologies are being developed at various places. One is NML. NML is the organization which has started this e-waste recycling in the country initially. They have the solutions of the solutions and already transferred around to various industries, and they are all doing it very, of course, not at commercial scales, at a pilot scale or semi-pilot scale. And whereas in CIPET, the technologies whatever we have developed, they are at some are at demonstration level, some are at pilot plant scale. For example, our PCB recycling technology, where we can recycle all this gold, silver, copper, palladium, etc. Actually, that is in the pilot plant scale, and we have transferred this technology to one industry. But of course, they are unable to implement it because of some other reasons, because of the land they acquired for this is not suitable for it, and some other things. Actually, there are certain industries and recyclers are in the forefront. Actually, they want the technology, and but further the scaled up technology will be able to provide to the industries only after 2025 because of a non exclusive agreement with our industry partner. But one more question, what we control the level, the adaptability of the technologies. Still, there is a lot of gap, I admit. For example, we have transferred the technology of lithium battery recycling to around 21 industries now total. Out of the 21 industries, actually, the 4 industries only they could able to establish their plan so far. Of course, at least the same scale what we are doing, or upscale to around 10 times. They are doing it in different parts of the country, but other people are still struggling to cope up the technology as well as the other things. For example, the technology whatever we demonstrate, not only we any laboratory, it is almost as the technical know-how scale. So from a technical know-how scale to a pilot plant scale to a commercial scale, a lot of gap is there. Still, CIPET is handholding them to scale it up. This is the major bottleneck or major problem where these industries not able to scale, because 1 or 2 industries are only they have the technical capability. The other recyclers are nothing but they are all just like investors. Many recyclers, they have some knowledge of e-waste and they have the money to invest, but whereas the technical capability or the technical or that inclination towards that adaptation of the technology and scaling up is not there with many of the recyclers what we have seen. So now our approach is that actually we will scale up the technology and give to them. For example, if the PCB technology, whatever we are doing, it is almost at a 1 ton per day capacity. This 1 ton per capacity is almost sufficient for any ordinary recycler, whether they can only whereas the technologies the plant what these people like Tata and Hindalco are looking for, it's at higher capacity. They are looking for around 10,000 capacity, that means around 10 tons per day capacity. But whereas actually they have to really do the engineering in that, but whereas they have the capability as well. So this is the major difference. The technologies have to be demonstrated at the pilot plant scale or at commercial scale, so that directly this recyclers can adapt and they can implement without much hurdles. So that is the one actually I want to sum up.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Rajesh. In fact, I'd like to come back to this again in terms of because when Mr. Jayesh Ranjan was talking about, he talked about the lab to land scenario, and you mentioned about it. And somewhere what I heard you speak is in terms of more in terms of a skill gap is what I hear you speaking about. Maybe I'm not understanding it very correctly, but maybe we can come back to it and then talk a little more detail as to how do we make that happen, because at the end of the day the kind of quantum of material that needs to be processed is so high that we need to have the skills in place. Maybe we can also have views from Dr. Dubey in terms of how the academic institutions can help us figure out those answers. So we'll come back around and talk about it a little more, Dr. Rajesh. So obviously, I would at this point in time move across to Dr. Mohanty. Now, welcome again, Dr. Mohanty, and thanks for being with us. As a designer per se, I mean, Dr. Dubey talked about design, and I'm fundamentally a designer, and then I moved across to different fields, and I really kind of resonate with that point, because especially when it comes to plastics, and I'm addressing that to you, especially because obviously because you're from the CPET side of the business. Now, the challenges of working with plastic, recycling plastics. And typically, when we talk about plastics and plastic waste, everybody remembers only the normal carry bags and the PET bottles and all of those things. And people are, I think, we are becoming more and more conscious of it. We are being careful about it, and we are kind of trying to dispose them as correctly as possible at this point in time. But what most of us do not see and kind of realize is the amount of issues that are there in engineering plastics, and which are some things which we touch day to day, use day to day, and without which none of the products that we use today will exist in their form, in the way we are able to use them, the ease with which we are using them. It's not going to be there. But this, of course, poses a very, very major challenge. So, how would you talk about it? How do you look at it? What are the various challenges that are there in the kind of recycling and establishing a circular economy and establishing the circularity of materials with the engineering plastics? And how do you propose we could possibly go through with that?
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so, as you rightly said, an entire country runs for the metals because they think that is precious. And we feel that the plastics part almost in V is neglected part, because when we started working, it was completely directionless, because there are so many plastics which are used in electronics. Especially we have very high valued engineering plastics, like we have ABS, we have PC ABS blend, we have HIPS, then we have PP, we have PPO. Lot many plastics are being used. Nearly 25% to 33% of your entire V constitutes of plastics. So that is basically, when you look at a monitor today, or when you look at anything in case of your waste electrical and electronic equipment, the first what you see is your plastic cabinet or something. But we run after the circuits, the circuit boards, we extract the metals, and we come out with a knocked out boards. Today what we are receiving at the receiving end, being a plastic technologist, is primarily the knocked out boards. Have you ever imagined, after CIPET or other high premier institutions of the country have completely given more importance, most of the importance is basically on the printed circuit boards, the metals, the metal part, the high value precious metal. What happens to the epoxy or your thermoset printed circuit boards? How do you approach circularity? That is first point. Second point is that you find lot many components, like you have your refrigerator liners, then you have your the outside the storage one, you have your printed circuit boards, the keyboards, then you have your monitors. So each and every part constitutes of plastics, where you'll find in the previous years, I was when we started working during 10-11, lot of brominated flame retardants were added. Now, to process those materials, those high valued engineering plastics with the brominated flame retardants, it was really a very tough task. The challenge is that when you try to mix it or reactively blend it and then come across with some other solution, then phase separation occurs. You cannot go for any kind of application sectors. You cannot target any kind of application sectors. But however, we have overcome those difficulties. Now at least BFR is not added. That is one way, the challenge is gone. Even if the BFR is added to it, we have already found out a solution to reactively blend the components and come out with a upcycled product. Yes, I would say rather, instead of downcycling, where you'll find across your Muradabad or across anywhere, you'll find small recyclers. In Delhi zones, Faridabad and other places, you'll find lot of small recyclers. They know how to separate out the metals. They know how to segregate the plastic part. And end of the day, what they do, just granulate it and sell it off. So what we do normally is that we value add the formulations. We go for different grades. We go for upcycled grades. In today's scenario in India, you will not find much, manufacturers of PC or your polycarbonate material or your ABS material. The costing is very high, around 400 to 500 rupees per kg. So we can just slash it 50%. It can go down below 200, but with a upskilled variety, which can come up with a different value addition, which you can go from electronics to electronic sector. That is one part. Second part, I think a lot of people have now come up with, pyrolysis. So pyrolysis of these kind of plastics also, they have come out with different byproducts starting from your crude oil and other things, which can again, and your ethane, propane, all these gases, which can again go back to the refinery. I mean, if tomorrow you are giving me the tons and tons of plastics waste from V, if it is ABS or if it is HIPS, I can go for a pyrolysis. I can extract the fraction. I can simply deliver it, the pyrolysis oil or the crude oil which comes out of it. That pyrolysis oil can go back to the refinery. So that is one way of approaching the circular economy. This is one part. Second part is that when you go for mechanical recycling, which is, you can say 92%, if you look at the EPR portal now, specifically for packaging, 92% constitutes of mechanical recycling. In a country like India, so far, the chemical recycling of plastics is still at infancy level. We'll find very few recyclers who are into chemical recycling, but for them also, to achieve that percentage of purity, the pyrolysis oil or anything, to achieve that percentage of purity, it is still not marketable. I mean, you can't have economics into it. That is the major part which you need to consider. But still, people are doing it. So point is that we should promote these kind of technologies. Then I would also point out that when you have sufficient mechanical recyclers, use that facility of mechanical recycling it. I mean, some subsidization needs to be provided as regards to the equipment which is being used, because as an academic institution, because from day one we work with the industry, our academics is totally different as compared vis-a-vis other institutions. Ours is more of connecting to industry connect, and lesser is of the theoretical portions. I think some of you should visit us, then you can understand. We are basically from day one on the shop floor. So if the mechanical recyclers who are into V recycling are provided with detailed infrastructure of the equipment with desired, the state of art infrastructure, we can do wonders. Instead of going for buckets, mugs, and all these applications, we can go for manifold application with mechanical recycling. Third point is that, how about the PCB boards? What do you do with the knocked out PCB boards? If you see, it is incinerated. But that we as a institution, we don't recommend that. Rather, you go for reducing it, size downing it, come out with some kind of filler. As a plastic technologist, you can reduce the particle size. That filler can go back again to the plastic industries, maybe to the piping industry, maybe to tanks, water storage tanks or something. There's absolutely, I don't feel that any carcinogenic substances will be there which can leach out or do something. This is one aspect. Other aspect is your wires and cables. You generate a lot of wires and cables where the copper part you are safely extracting it. Copper goes for many applications. So what do you do for the PVC? What do you do for the cross-linked PE? So those things also needs to be given some direction. We have found out a solution to the waste PVC market. It can go for flooring applications and other applications, even for railway flooring also it can go. And as regards to cross-linked PVC, we are still left out with that. We need to think of a solution, how to go and what is the way out for the cross-linked PVC. So that is from the plastic side. Any other questions, I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohanty. Thank you. In fact, I'm happy that you talked about the upscaling, because The thing is that in most of these engineering plastics, upcycling, where in most of the engineering plastics, the amount of energy that is there is so high. And typically, as you rightly pointed out, because one is not able to clearly distinguish what type of plastic it is, and because nobody wants to take a risk in terms of the engineering, the technical specifications of their products or the parts, they end up becoming the mugs and the buckets and everything. Now, if there are these technologies that you are talking about, which can actually make them uh, better products, we're able to make better use of the energy that has gone to make them into those engineering plastics that they are, then I think we are really doing a great kind of a resource recovery, in not just in terms of material, but also from the energy that has gone into creating those products. Thank you. We'll come back again in talks. There are a couple of questions also that are coming in, so we might want to talk about those too. So moving on, all of these technologies, and we start. Dr. Rajesh talked about skills, but at the same time, when Mr. Jayesh Ranjan talked about lab to land, there's always this challenge about how this actually, all of these from a lab scale or from a demonstration technology moves across and becomes a commercially viable piece of engineering. Now, in that situation, one of the key things that comes into play is money, and not me, but the rupee value, the dollar value that we're talking about in terms of the investment requirement that is required. We have Simi here, and Simi is an investment advisor, and she is working very closely with sustainability in the industries of this kind. And I look forward to hear from Simi. Well, I was thinking of calling Lakshmi really, then the goddess Lakshmi, to understand it better from her. But then Simi, as a rep, you can kind of try and help us understand how this works and how is the scene. Is it really, is there investment coming in? Are there people ready to pay for this activity? And is it really worth the while of all the work that's going on? What do you, Simi?
Thanks, Mani. I'll certainly try. Essentially, our work at Climate spans multiple facets of climate finance, including researching on what gaps exist and then finding ways to fund those gaps. And we've been tracking climate finance and climate investments for about 12 years now. So I must say that if you go back about 2 years, let's say to 2021, waste and circularity was definitely not on the investment horizons, right? No investors were actually putting in any capital in the sector. That has completely changed in the last 2 years. So from very negligible investments 2 years ago, last year in 2023, uh, equity investments in waste and circularity in India were almost $66 million. While we do not have data on debt because that's not publicly available, but from our estimates, we believe that another close to $70 to $100 million came in debt in this sector as well, which means that at this point of time, waste and circularity companies are getting investment of almost $150 million a year. And this is a number that we expect will continue to grow from here. Why this will continue to grow from here is because there are many investors who were earlier looking at solar and electric mobility and food systems as a primary climate sector to invest in, are also now realizing that waste can be an important sector. There are multiple funds that we know who are now building theses around waste and circularity and are looking for good companies to invest in. We believe that waste is at an inflection point at this point of time from an investor perspective. Because investors think there are a lot of positive things that have happened in the industry. I know there are lots of gaps and challenges that you mentioned, but if you look at it from like where we are today from let's say 5 years ago, we believe that we have seen positive movement in policy, while EPR has its own sets of challenges and evolution that will come over the next decade. From a directional perspective, all investors believe that EPR is here to stay and will continue to improve, which means that having a positive policy push is a good thing for them. Similarly, technologies have matured, which means that if you're now looking at funding plastic recycling or e-waste recycling or battery recycling, or even MRFs like municipal waste recycling or landfill mining, you don't have technology risk anymore. There are mature technologies that are proven to deliver. And finally, there is a customer segment that's willing to pay for it. Not only because of EPR, but also because so many corporations have circular goals because they want to have recycled material used in their production and their products because of their own net zero goals. Even if it's early days, I think directionally, if I was an equity investor today and I was to take a bet on will this sector grow 5 to 7 years from now, which is the decision most investors are taking, this looks like a good space to be. I don't want this to mean that anybody in waste and circularity can get funded, and I'm happy to talk about what kind of companies are getting funded and what kind of companies investors are interested in. But before that, I'll just briefly say that we primarily see four sectors or segments within waste and circularity that are getting funded today. There is municipal waste, both MRFs and landfill biomining. There is plastic waste. There is e-waste and batteries. And finally, there is agri-waste to value chains. So everything from biofuels to biochar is what's kind of getting investor interest today. What are investors looking to fund? And I'll start by saying these are the investors who are looking to put equity investment or risk money in the companies, right? And these are investors who are looking to fund businesses that are ready to scale. What that means is that they're looking at businesses who are not taking technology risk. There's a technology that's already been proven. Like either you have developed a technology, done some pilots, and now you are ready to go to market with it, or at least have one or two customers who have kind of, trialed what you're doing. And essentially, there is no risk to whether this will work or not. So that's I think, the gating criteria most investors use at this point of time. The other big trend shift that we have seen in investor mindset is that most investors are interested in companies that are doing value extraction, not just dismantling or recycling. So, for example, in plastics, there are many companies who are basically doing plastic to fiber, which is a very well established technology. But what investors want to do is, I would say, bottle to bottle recycling or food grade plastic granules. In e-waste and batteries, we are seeing increasing demand for company pipeline where investors are looking for companies who are not just doing dismantling, but also doing value extraction and fully circular solutions. So if you look at some of the largest investments that have come in battery recycling, for example, they have come into companies that are not just doing black mass, but are also able to extract lithium and cobalt and precious minerals back out of batteries, and they can go into like battery grade materials essentially. So I think the investor mindset is that, at least technologies to do that exist. And even if you're at pilot stage and can scale from here, they want to invest in those kind of companies. Which also then means is a corollary that the larger businesses get funded, and the larger businesses are the ones that are getting the bulk of the investment. Younger businesses who are still in labs, who are still in colleges, are still finding the challenge of getting their first funding in. Or even if they have their first funding in, getting this growth capital to scale, which is why we have had to be more creative when supporting those businesses. We have looked at sources of grant capital, we've looked at debt, we've looked at government institutions like NEFED and TDK to kind of fund those businesses. But it's definitely not as easy as funding a much larger business which has already proven the technology, has customers, and needs scale capital. Now, all of this is obviously about startups and high growth companies. I would also make a point about all the recyclers and dismantling units that we mentioned, right? So when we think of capital, we often think of equity capital as the place to go to. And obviously, equity investors will not fund this. But the good thing about circularity, unlike, let's say, climate tech or a software solution, is that this is a sector banks understand. Banks understand land and shed and machinery, which means that folks like State Bank of India, like Tata Clean Tech Capital, SIDBI, have actually been very active in funding the more, I would say, well-known technologies in terms of just regular bank funding. So I'll just stop here and say that, while it's never easy, but it's gotten a lot easier over the last 3 years compared to where we were in 2021.
Yeah. Thanks, Simi. Yeah, it's good to know and quite happy to know that at least now the sector is being looked at more positively, and people are ready to put in their funds as long as there is some amount of proof of concept in some ways, and they're ready to kind of look at help the growth capital, as you mentioned. And yeah, I think that's a good sign as long as some of the technologies that the team here, or the panelists here are working on, we're able to prove them, and we are able to prove their capability in extracting more efficiently and better. That's what I hear from you. Thank you very much, Simi. Going back to Dr. Dubey, uh, Dr. Rajesh talked about a skill requirement, Dr. Dubey, in terms of especially in the technology areas where people need to have that skill to actually work with these technologies that are being developed by the labs, by organizations like CIPET, and even by IITs like yours. So one is how does an institute like yours, and there are many of them around the country, premier ones, how do they help? Is this becoming one of the mainline understanding courses wherein we are able to have people interested in working in this? At the same time, also want to know how is the awareness among people that you interact with in these institutions with respect to these kind of challenges and the opportunities that might lie in resolving these challenges?
Yeah, so in terms of capacity building, as you heard from Dr. Ranjan, our keynote speaker, that IIT Hyderabad has that MTech program in e-waste management. So that's kind of at the higher level. So somebody who can come and help run a certain company, or if some company is there, or they could probably do a startup and those kind of things in this particular area too. But we need to bring that capacity building also to the lower level. So that at kind of a diploma level, or even at ITI level, or even the workers who are working on the ground, working with this different technologies or different instruments which is out there. So that kind of training is happening a little bit, but as far as I'm aware, it's not happening to that extent as you and I would like it to happen. Usually these trainings happens in a five-star hotel or a four-star hotel where most of the people who are there in the training is actually not going to really work on the ground. So we need, and then also the training needs to happen in the local language. Because see, you have to have the training in the language which is the person whom you are trying to train should be able to understand. So that's where the gap is in terms of developing of a material, in terms of training. Like, for example, institute like us, like I myself has developed a electronic waste management course, which is, it's a 4-week course. But then again, it's in English, it's a high level one. It's probably good for a BTech student or a master's student, or probably a PhD student can learn something. But for to have a training for somebody like a uh, uh, ITI holder, or even lower than that, who are working some skilled labor. That kind of training is we don't see that much happening on the ground, and we have to develop those training programs, and that need to happen in collaboration with the industry. Because see, I need to. I'm very good in teaching a BTech student or a MTech student, but I'm to teach a semi-skilled worker or a skilled worker. I need to get help from the industry in terms of how to put that together. So that it has to be a teamwork. So that I think should happen in terms of the skill development. I think if there is something happening which CMET is aware of, they can shed a light on that. But as far as I know that I have not seen, possibly I was not invited to any of those training programs, so probably I'm not aware of that.
So possibly one of the avenues is to also take this up with the Skill Development Council somewhere, so that, because at this point, is it even part of the agenda then? At the end of the day, skill development, most of the frontline industries, the skills that are required for that is very much there. And I don't think these are very different from that, except that the raw material that goes into the production, into the equipment, is very different. But at the end of the day, the furnace, or the plastic extraction facilities that you might have, they could be pretty similar to what is happening. So I guess it's more an adaptation than actually something completely new. Dr. Rajesh, your views on that, and I have another follow-up question on from what Simi mentioned. in terms. So let me hear your views on this first before we move on to the other question that I had.
Yeah, actually, Professor Dubey was talking about this IIT course. Actually, it's a joint course. It's 50% credits by IIT and 50% by CIPET Hyderabad. We are all faculties. 4 faculties are there from CIPET Hyderabad. I think 4 batches completed. Now I think the 5th batch this August. This 5th batch is going to start. It's a MDA program. As he rightly pointed out, those people are not going to work in ground up. So for that, we have another 3 levels of training. One is actually for this our as a part of the curriculum, we take diploma people. They will get awareness course. Actually, we are doing that awareness course through one of this our Telangana government arm like task. So they have already completed around 3,000 students who are already in the BTech courses and diploma courses. This actually is almost a week long awareness course. It's already completed. So we have another level of training course. It's actually 2 months training course for these underprivileged students. They will come to CIPET and they will do the hands-on work and will get trained. And another one is actually we have a 3-day training. It's almost a crash course where what we do actually it is for the early entrepreneurs. They are they want to start a new industry, recycling industry, or they want to recruit new staff into the e-waste recycling. Before that, they should know about what is e-waste, what is e-waste management, what is the risk involved in that one, what is the safety issues associated with that, health hazards associated with this one, and also to understand the value chain. We have a 3-day course where the morning hours we'll talk about all those theory classes. In the afternoon, we will take them to different recycling facilities and dismantling facilities, and they will have this hands-on experience. This is the way what we do. And another experience, actually, we have completed around 10, 12 different batches of 10 to 20 participants. And another course is actually for these startups. If a startup they are interested to work in e-waste management, they can come and utilize the CIPET facilities on some payment basis, and we will have one mentor from CIPET, and there is a minimum of 2 months they can stay, and there are some startup they stayed a year almost to 2 years also. And we have an opportunity where some startup is coming with their own some novel ideas, and they can develop their technology also. Actually, one gentleman who was postgraduate from Institute of Science joined with the startup, and he has developed the technology for the isolating the liquid crystals from the LCD displays, and actually that is now establishing plants and so on in Hyderabad. So this is the scale development. There are different levels from ITA level to post-graduation level. There are different levels of training is going on. And one more very relevant point which pointed out by Professor Dubey is that actually to have this course contents in local language. So, Madam is also available. Smita Madam knows very well. Actually, we have another program where we are planning to upgrade this informal actors. And to that, actually, we are developing the course content, first in English, definitely. And after that, we are going to translate this to around 10 different languages. So that will be directly used for the training. And also, we are also have one virtual platform, e-waste Kaushal Vikas, where we are going to upload all this training material. So whoever interested, they can go through that one and come. Actually, it is in the initial stages of implementation. So actually, we are coming with some big plans as Jayesh are told. Actually, it is going to be a single solution for all problems related to the e-waste management.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rajesh. Thank you for that. In fact, I just wanted to touch with you on the point that Simi made with respect to proof of concept, etc., with respect to investment, attraction of investment. Now, when I look at lithium and recycling, I would still say while there are multiple units in the country which are dealing on working on the lithium and battery recycling, I think it's all still at a nascent stage. I just wanted to pick your mind on your opinion on how do you see lithium ion recycling in the country today, and how do you believe how at what stage in terms of technology, in terms of effectiveness, these units are? What is your take on that?
For example, when you talk about lithium and battery management, there are a number of units. They do only 50%. That means they collect, they neutralize, and they do the dismantling, and they separate the active mass and the copper, aluminum, and plastic separately. And this active mass or the black mass, they are exporting to different countries and getting for the final separation. But there are, up to my knowledge, there are around minimum 4 units which they are successfully extracting cobalt, nickel, manganese, and lithium. And they are sustaining. And their resource efficiency also earlier from around 60%, now they are improving. Except from lithium, all others extraction efficiency also increased more than 80%. Lithium still in around 40 to 50% only. But it's happening, and around, if you are maybe correct, maybe around 4 or 5 years back, actually up to black mass only it was there. But around 2 tons per day black mass processing is happening at least in 4 units. And definitely, I mean, with this around 20-25 units, which is going to come up, almost all this black mass, or at least the 50% of the black mass what we are now exporting to Japan and Korea, will be processed in our country only. Because it doesn't require a huge capex. That is one advantage, but it's highly technological process. So the skilled manpower and this is very important. It's happening. So I think it has a bright future.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. Just kind of quickly hop on to Dr. Mohanty. Dr. Dubey, when he started the session, he talked about design for circularity. And to me, I believe specifically when it comes to plastics, design plays a very vital role in making sure that the circularity can actually happen. Now, I want to hear your views on it, and what would you be your recommendation to designers when they are working on the plastics part, especially to help you extract the material better?
Yeah. So when you are dealing with the plastics part, the first fundamental thing which we we propagate is that use a single family of plastics, okay, which can enable the recyclers to amicably recycle. You know, if you add too many materials, like for example, right now we face majority of problems now the government is facing as regards to multi-layer, okay, because there are too many kinds of family of polymers which are intact. So, you know, extracting them, recycling them, converting them, and value adding them becomes a great tough task actually. Now, in case of your electronic waste, brominated flame retardant, so far it has been eliminated. That is the one positive aspect which we get, because when we are recycling it interferes within the blending stream and it leads to incompatibility of two phases. And you will find the majority of the plastics now which is coming up, it is either made out of your ABS, poly ABS part is coming up with the fillers, which is essentially the carbon black and other things which is coming up. The blend of PC and ABS, which was very common earlier, now you'll find that is not common. Majority of them are coming with the ABS based, your keyboards, your main, CPUs and other things. It is essentially made with ABS. Third thing is that the FR which they are adding, the FR has to be kept in mind that tomorrow at the end of the life cycle of a particular product, that FR, number one, it doesn't leach out, number one. Number two, that FR doesn't interfere during your reactive blending process, doesn't interfere, and it doesn't give rise to, different, end of the day, that FR will additionally help the recycler in not adding further FR. I mean, there is a diminution effect should continue. Whatever FR you are adding, that FR will act as a FR in processing when you are going for a first recyclate, whatever. So this is one of the things you can we suggest. Third thing, PCBs, you have no other way out. Just apart from, see, thermosets, this cannot be converted, this cannot be chemically recycling. It also becomes a difficult task. Better is we need to devise a method to convert them into the fillers, which can be used. Again, it can go back to the recycling stream for any kind of developmental activity. One more vital aspect which we find in today's generation of your computer parts and other things, there are a lot of metallized coatings which is available, lot of, because to increase the aesthetic appeal or something. If you see the Apple counterparts, they come out with lot of pigments, lot of flowers, lot of, to make it aesthetically very attractive for the customers. But that plays a very vital role when at the end of the life cycle you go for recycling it. Okay, because they add a lot of cross linkers, they create all those designs and other things, then again it interferes during the second recyclate, those things. So once for the designers, number one, yes, the designs has to be made in such a way, it has, that can be easily recycled. Don't create any much intricacy that people will not able to understand. Number two, for the material engineers, for the material scientists, we suggest go for a simple methodology, go for a simple family of polymers which is amicable to recycle. So that is what I would suggest. I hope I'm clear.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mohanty. Thanks a lot for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will, Simi, for a moment, I'll take a little liberty. There was a few questions that I saw popping in with specific panelists. So maybe, Amrita, you can take those questions and pass it on to the panelists so that we can see if we can get the response from them.
Yeah, sure, man. Firstly, I would like Dr. Dubey to answer one question. So we have a question which says, could you mention the major reasons for the non-scalability of the recycling process? Yet the process is worth it. Is it the higher capex and opex cost? So over to you.
I don't know whether I'm the right person to answer that question, but I can try. So I can try from the lab scale to the pilot scale experience that we have. Many times what happens in the lab scale, we come up with certain technology which seems to work out. But when you go to the pilot scale, especially the collection part, having the logistics, see, taking some electronics, taking some cell phones from my campus or from my city and bring it to the lab, doing some of those pyrometallurgical and hydrometallurgical process and recovering of precious metal. We have done that. One master student recovered some gold and we were really happy seeing that gold. But but to really take it to the kind of a industrial level, we have to also look at where to source the raw material, how much it will cost, how I will bring it to my plant. So that part needs to be, the economics has to looked into. And that's where, as I think at the very beginning, in the opening remarks, we heard that even the existing recyclers, they are struggling to get the e-waste in their facility. We do have several recyclers in India, but when I talk to them, they say they are actually working under capacity because most of it is ending up in the informal sector, because there is a informal sector is able to pay certain money to get this electronics, where the formal sector actually is investing a lot of money in the technology. So they are not in a position to pay 400, 500 or 1000 rupees to me for my cell phone, where the informal sector is, because they don't have to actually follow any of the environmental regulations and they work it in a very crude way. So those challenges are there. So that's the reason why things are not working out. But since we have the technology provider from CIPET and business person also is there, so I think they can probably answer this in a much from a different angle as well.
I can
Yeah,
maybe take
Simi.
Amrita to kind of, share my experience.
Yes.
We have
Yes.
seen many startups who have successfully done pilots or worked at small scale, and then go through what we call in investment community the valley of death, which means that you're able to do the pilots, but you're not able to achieve scale from there. And I think there are two reasons we've seen for that. Right? I think two kinds of startups. One is the startups that you mentioned, Professor, which is that these are typically technology graduates or people who own technology, develop new technologies, and then they're able to prove the technology works and then have to create a business out of it. The others we've seen are the more grassroots organizations who start with a charity kind of motive to say we should help the rat pickers become more formal, we should help them gain livelihoods. Now, in both cases, what you've seen is that while the intention is there, the intentionality to create a business out of this requires a lot more than just good intentions or good technology. It needs creating this whole infrastructure around marketing, around processes, around finding the right customers, building the processes to kind of collect at scale, sell at scale, recover money, and then attract the capital. So I think that is where, we have seen programs, for example, IIT Madras has one where they kind of pair technology graduates or professors who are developing technologies with business co-founders. I think those come in handy because if you do that, then you have all the skills that a business needs. But where we have found people face challenges is really doing that, right? So going from that mindset of being a technology only founder or being a very grassroots organization that has come up with a impact first motive, then thinking about this being a real business and thinking about how to create business cash flows and value out of it. That's where a lot of challenges to scale is that we have seen.
Thanks, Simi. Thanks a lot to Dr. Dubey and to you. Amrita, you had a couple of other questions too. Can you just quickly go through them? I know we are
We have
almost on
Percy.
time.
Yeah. So there's one question I don't know how our panelist would be able to answer. So do we have a system for the extraction of precious metal platinum in India? This is one of the first questions that we got. Yeah.
So we have the technology for extraction of all precious metals, always the PMG group also. And the final separation of platinum group metals are, mainly do it in this and platinum only, and of other recyclers, I think, doing. The PMG fraction is sending to a particular organization and they are doing the fine extraction.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh.
I think we will have the last question of the day, and yes, and it's for
I have to
for
add,
Dr.
If you don't mind, actually, the question what was to Professor Dubey, actually have one point to add. Actually, the capex and opex both is impediment. For example, if a formal recycler, around 30 to 35% of his capex goes for the pollution control things, whereas that is not required for informal sector. That's why they are able to do it. And even this OPEX also have one point, actually, for any recyclers, if they are available, they need to, what happened actually is one unhealthy competition and jacking up the price of the raw material. Input material is major impediment. I just, for example, recently one recycler, they just really, recently entered to the market, jack up the price, and all this PCB board they sent to abroad, and in that process actually they lost almost 10% of the government. instead of profit, they went into loss. Because of the unhealthy competition, the input prices are going up. So that OPEX also going up very high. So that also add to the this scaling of problems.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. Amrita.
Yeah, the last question. So this is for Dr. Mohanty. Do you think our focus should be on particle molecular monomer material level recycling to make a more quality product out of the recycled materials and hence help create demand for recycled input materials and to establish, transition into circular economy seamlessly?
Yeah, that's fine actually, but end of the day, what kind of recycled products you get? The recycled products, whatever you get, you can go back to the monomeric level if you are converting it into your chemical recycling or something. But if it is a material mechanical recycling which is widely practiced in the country, you have to go for the interface compatibility. The person who is asking this question, usually the particle monomer or whatever level he's looking at in the chemical recycling, you can go back. But what we recommend that for a material like ABS, for a material like PC, which is a very high valued engineering plastic grade material, if at all you are targeting for a for mechanical recycling technology, it would be appropriate to go for a reactive blending and for interfacial compatibility, and then designing your product stream and targeting what kind of product you are going to require. That's what I think we are doing with Karo Sambhav right now. Many fold of materials comes to us, tons and tons of materials have come to us, and now we are designing various input design of things have been planned accordingly so that it can go for high value addition. I hope I'm clear. If anything I missed out, please do write to us. It is we will be happy to help all of you out as regards to plastics recycling is concerned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess we are fairly much beyond time at this point in time. So Amrita, would you be happy to?
Sure. I think Pranshu is also around. Hello,
Pranshu,
Pranshu, you're
you
on.
want to say something? You're on mute, Pranshu.
Yeah. So I think this was a fabulous discussion. First, Dr. Jayesh, or JG brought a policy perspective. And then we had very good technical discussions followed by real grounding of the whole discussion by Simi. What is it that will really work and what will not. So thank you for this very, very good discussions. This was start of a fantastic series. There are 7 more episodes to go. And I like to mention that this series is sponsored by Apple, Dell, Canon, and Cisco, with WEEE Forum in Brussels as our knowledge partner. So we will be doing another 7 episodes. Looking forward to talk to you. But once again, I would like to say sincere thanks to Simi, to Dr. Dubey, Dr. Smita, and Rajesh. We all are collaborating in some or other form. I hope we can find our way out of this challenging situation that we are finding ourselves stuck in. Whether it is one of the things that I like to leave as a point of thought for everyone. What I am hearing in my circles, and the more I'm going to discussions and debates, actually the message much beyond. I think technology is still possible. Policy is still too easy to make. I think the biggest is how do we enforce the regulations in this country? And I think that's where we are all losing out, that even with the kind of traction that is there, we are finding a huge speed breaker in form of enforcement, which is creating completely lack of level playing field. So organizations who want to do great are unable to get, contracts to do the right things because their costs are a bit higher. So I think, while all the things are important, we will need to find ways to bringing enforcement in, because all then this will start working very smoothly. We are moving in the right direction. All the things are in place. I think the oil is enforcement. So thank you. Thank you so much for this very, very good discussion. Loved having this first round. See you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Much
Thank
appreciate
you.
your
Thank
contribution.
you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Pranshu,
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you very
day.
much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.